Okay, we will get started now. My name is Lena and I'm from Provident Credit Union. Thank you for joining us for today's webinar where we will be discussing scholarships, finding free money for college. This webinar is being recorded. All participants have been muted, so please use the Q&A box for any questions. All attendees will receive a follow-up email with today's recording and presentation deck within a week. Your presenter today is Jeff Lackey. He is the Director of Relationship Management at Sallie Mae. And with that, I'd like to now hand it off to Jeff. Welcome, Jeff.
All right, thank you, Lena, and welcome everyone. Thank you for taking time out of your day to view this presentation. Hopefully there will be some really good takeaways for you. It's going to be focusing on scholarships, which by the way, today, November 1st, is the start of National Scholarship Month. I think hopefully after we get done with this presentation, you'll find out that Scholarship Month should really be every month. But we're going to have a special focus on the month of November for it. But, one of those takeaways, and I'm jumping ahead already, is that scholarships are going to be available all the time. So, but more on that to come. So today, some of the topics we are going to discuss today are basically, paying for post-secondary school and how scholarships can help and use more of the free resources that are coming available. And, this was once kind of a smaller supply at the time. And at the time, select few students were eligible for scholarships. But hopefully after today's presentation, you'll see that that is not the case anymore and that the scholarship opportunities are tremendously plentiful. And hopefully the takeaway is that there's a scholarship or scholarships out there for everyone. So we'll discuss, how that can be and how you can put yourself in one of the best positions to find them and then work on the application in order to apply for them. So we are going to focus on the variety of scholarship resources that are available. We are going to touch upon scholarship search engines and why you may want to consider creating a profile on one of them. And then, how to create a scholarship winning essay. At the end of the day, you can find the scholarship, but you're still going to have an application process. And so basically, we want to make sure that you have the best of ability to win a scholarship based on the information that they're asking for in the application. And then lastly, tips on applying for scholarships. So how we can have scholarships help pay for school. Initially, we're going to take a step back just for a quick second and basically talk about a 1-2-3 approach. And as with all financial aid, we promote, Sallie Mae and Provident Credit Union promotes the 1-2-3 approach when making a plan for financing college. You always want to make sure that we're starting with the money you don't have to pay back. And today, of course, we're focusing on scholarships, which is one of those entities, one of those topics that this is money that you don't have to pay back. However, free money can also come in the form of grants, and it can also come in the form of fellowships, as well as assistantships, which, although those may have stipulations, they don't usually require a recipient to repay the funds or accrue interest. The number 2 step is to apply for federal financial aid. And essentially, with that, the various different federal grants and various different other programs that can come with applying for federal aid, and that would be through the FAFSA, which we'll talk about in just one second. But the idea also, too, is that it does make you eligible for federal student loans as well. So by filing the FAFSA each and every year that you need money for school, you can basically put yourself in the position to qualify for some of these low interest student-centric loans. Although there is very limited federal funding in the form of grants, scholarships, and other free money, you'll still need the FAFSA for federal aid. And so remember that. So, why some scholarships may, require you to submit certain information that the FAFSA provides in order to determine how needy you may potentially be as well. Most of the scholarships, and hopefully, we'll discuss this today, but most of the scholarships you'll see are going to be merit-based, which are going to be based on either certain accolades, maybe culture, maybe gender, whatever the stipulations are within the scholarship. But some of them may ask as a portion of the application what your need is. And if they do, chances are they might be asking that information or asking from information from the FAFSA. And then lastly, if after you found the free money, you've applied for federal financial aid, and you still have some unmet need, or you still have a gap in between what you're being billed for and what you need in order to cover the expenses, you may want to consider a responsible private school loan. And that's basically, you know, if you still need money for school, the private student loan market can help you cover that balance. So let's talk a little bit about the FAFSA and why we're talking about it and how it potentially can work into a need for scholarship information. The FAFSA application this year, well, I should back up. The FAFSA application typically is due in October 1st or opens in October 1st of every year. But in 2023, the revised FAFSA is expected to be released in December sometime. We don't have an official date yet, but we know that it's going to be open in December of 2023. Most of the required information is going to come from your tax return. So that's the reason why the part of the changes in the FAFSA of going roughly from 104 questions down to roughly 36, 38 questions is because a lot of this information is going to be transmitted directly from the IRS when you file your FAFSA this year. Families that are looking to complete the FAFSA for the academic year 24-25 school year will use your 2022 IRS tax return. When you file a FAFSA and when you're looking for scholarships and such, remember that some financial aid is awarded on a first come, first served basis. So apply for the FAFSA as early as you can. And again, we know that it's in December sometime, but we don't know exactly the date that it will open. And lastly, too, if you are in a state, you know, and obviously California is one of those states that has a grant program, a state grant program, that they may possibly utilize some of the information from the FAFSA as well. So make sure that you understand what the deadlines are in filing the FAFSA in order to put yourself in qualification for various different Cal grants and such. So let's talk a little bit about the resources or the sources of funding that families have relied on to cover the cost of education. In Sallie Mae's findings from our national study of college students and parents, which we titled How America Pays for College, we found students and families rely on a variety of funding sources. And as you can see here on the right, there are 6 funding sources that families can use. So starting with the coral color, that's the free money, that would be the scholarships and grants. And then family resources in blue, including parents' income and savings and students' income and savings. But then you also have parent borrowing, student borrowing, and finally funds from relatives and friends. In academic year 21-22, the family's out-of-pocket contributions covered more than half of college spending, roughly 54%, while scholarships and grants covered about half of that, roughly 26% on average. Borrowed funds covered 18% of college costs, with the remaining 2% being covered by relatives and friends. Over the last couple of years, families used similar strategies to pay for college, and so these percentages haven't really shifted significantly. What we hope after today's session is that more free money in the form of scholarships can be achieved and hopefully reduce the dependence on savings and borrowing. In that same study, we asked 40% of families who did not rely on scholarships whether they even applied. And what we learned is that most families who did not use scholarships, which were roughly about 2/3, never applied, leaving about roughly $100 million worth of scholarships unused. And that's according to the National Scholarship Providers Association. As we found out, some families might be missing out on scholarships basically due to misconceptions. The graph on this slide shows study participants' agreement level with 2 statements about scholarships. And the first is that scholarships are only available for students with exceptional grades or abilities. Almost half, roughly 45% of college families agreed with this statement. And this means that almost half of college families are unaware that there are thousands of scholarships that are awarded based on criteria that have nothing to do with grades or athletics. Another 36% of families agree that it's not worth applying for scholarships if the parents make too much money. So, what are scholarships? Why are these not going applied for, and what can we do about that? So, scholarships are financial aid awards that do not have to be repaid. It's essentially free money for education. A scholarship might cover the entire cost of your tuition, or it might be a one-time award of a few $100s. And either way, it's worth applying for because it'll help reduce the cost of your education. Wondering when you should apply for scholarships? Well, each scholarship has its own unique requirements that indicate and who qualifies and how to apply. It also depends on the scholarship deadline dates. Some deadlines are as early as a year before college starts. So if you're in high school now, you should be researching and applying for scholarships during the summer between your junior and senior years. But if you've missed that window, don't give up. Look at scholarship information to see which ones you can still apply for now. And then you may have a question of how to apply. Okay, I have scholarships, and I see them. How do I apply? Each scholarship has its own requirements. The scholarships websites should give you an idea of who qualifies for the scholarship and how to apply. Make sure that you read the application carefully and fully, fill it out completely, and meet the application deadline date. So let's talk about some of the scholarships that are available. Some people believe that scholarships are only for athletes and scholars. And in some cases, that is true, but there are so many other opportunities. In fact, you wouldn't believe the types or numbers of scholarships that are available. There's scholarships out there for almost every skill, interest, and hobby. There's a scholarship out there. We've seen scholarships for tall or short people, volunteers, slam poets, filmmakers. I mean, the list can go on. The challenge, though, is looking for the right scholarship, and it can take some time, but students should realize how important this free money can be, because the more free money that you can get for college, the less you have to borrow. And remember also, too, that scholarships can be awarded for a variety of reasons, as you can see on the list from this slide. It doesn't have to always be academic achievement, but it certainly is potentially a few out there that are for that. But it can also be based on financial need or simply community involvement. Maybe you have organizational membership or talent. They can be awarded on leadership or school activities, ethnicity, your religious affiliations, or it can even be, you can be eligible to win a scholarship based on your parents' affiliation with either where they work or a club or an activity. So there's quite a few opportunities out there. And while the federal and state governments award some scholarships, the majority of funds awarded by the institution, so basically the college or university in which students enroll, as well as private organizations. So from that standpoint, again, it's great. The federal government and state governments do have scholarships available, but the vast majority of scholarships are going to come from colleges and universities, as well as private organizations. So there are many resources for scholarships, and students can turn to academic departments, they can turn to their local communities, they can turn to federal and state agencies, employers, libraries, as well as online search engines. Just about anyone can offer a valid scholarship, so keep up your practice of searching all of these areas. And one resource to note, private organizations. Again, we talked about it on the last slide. The number of professional organizations and associations that are offering scholarship resources is increasing. What in the past used to be just a select few, many have created an endowment that leads to a scholarship. And these scholarships can have a better chance of being more in the field of study that you're pursuing. Therefore, you may find potentially less applicants, which sometimes means less competition. And also, too, there's a possibility that your uniqueness will stand out more with these types of scholarships. So let's take a quick dive into scholarship search engines and what they can provide for you and how they may be able to make your search easier. Scholarship search engines can house an aggregate list of scholarships and allow users to be matched to scholarships based on a personal profile that you create. Once you create your profile, as new scholarships are added to the database, you can be notified of new scholarship opportunities that match your profile. The key on this is to make sure that your profile is always up to date. Make sure that you're changing your test scores, updating them, update your GPA, make sure that your clubs are represented correctly, as well as your organizations or any community service that you're doing, as well as volunteer opportunities or activities. And also too, these scholarship searches are not just for your junior or senior year in high school. They have expanded to offer scholarships throughout your educational journey, and as such, updating your profile along your educational journey with your first semester GPA, activities, and organizations you're involved with college is highly recommended, especially if you do decide to change your major. And there are a variety of scholarship search engines. Some of the most popular we have listed here. Provident Credit Unions, powered by Sallie Mae Scholarship Search, roughly 3.5 million scholarships worth over $18 billion available. And you can see, if you're interested, the web link down below. But there's also other search engines out there as well. FastWeb being a very popular scholarship search engine, roughly 1.5 million scholarships with close to $3.4 billion. And of course, Big Future, that's another scholarship search engine. They've got scholarships and other financial aid and internships from more than 2,200 programs totaling close to $6 billion. And one thing to remember whenever you decide on a scholarship search engine or decide on scholarship search engines to put a profile or enter a profile and apply for scholarships from, make sure that you take a look and see if the scholarship application search engine has a fee to apply. There really should not be a fee to apply for these scholarships. Most every scholarship out there that's valid typically is free to apply for, and thus the scholarship search engine that is allowing you access or providing access to make that scholarship available to you should be free as well. So in your search for scholarships, you'll find search engines help you narrow your search down and guide you to the perfect scholarship based on your profile. And again, remember, the search should be free. Never pay for scholarship applications or have someone help you find scholarships. That's the other thing too. You may have somebody that contacts you out of the blue through whatever means that they may have found you from, and say that they can apply for scholarships for you. Everything we're providing for you today is free of charge, and all the services that we've shown you so far is free of charge as well. So you can do this on your own if you choose to do so. Make sure that the scholarship search engine that you're looking at is validating scholarships and ensures that the scholarships are current and up to date. You want to make sure that the opportunities are correct. See if the scholarship search engine that you choose has a calendar or a calendar feature to help you know what deadline dates are first and get your application plan or your timeline in place for you. Kind of essentially help you be organized. Make sure see also too if your scholarship search has a filter, because a filter is important too, as it'll help you not miss deadlines or to apply for larger award amount scholarships first. But filters can usually have you apply or filter by either name or deadline or amount, whatever suits your needs. So having a filter is really a great feature to have on a scholarship search engine. Ratings are good too. Ratings can sometimes be provided by previous applicants or recipients of scholarships. Kind of think of like a product review when you're shopping online. You know, you may want to look and take the advice from those that have gone through the scholarship search process or scholarship application process before you. It would also be nice too if your scholarship search engine had the ability to email you or an email alert of new scholarship matches that come available. So you built your profile, you looked at the scholarships, but maybe next month a new scholarship comes available that meets your profile. Sure would be nice for them to allow for you to know that. Make sure that, or C, this is kind of a big one too. Make sure that your scholarship search engine has the ability to save and update your profile as according. So you certainly don't want to use a scholarship search engine that you have to go in and enter all of your profile information in, look for scholarships, and then be done, and then come back a few days later and realize that you have to enter in all of your information again. To have it be able to save so that you can go in there and start from where you left off and then update accordingly moving forward is great. And then lastly too, we use our mobile devices or our phones for everything else. Why not use it for, finding scholarships? So it's, see if that scholarship search engine is easily accessible and always on hand. So let's go ahead and take a deeper dive into what a scholarship search engine looks like. And we'll go ahead and use Provident Credit Union's powered by Sallie Mae scholarship search site, just as a guide to familiarize you with some of the simplicity a search offers. and how you can help kind of customize that profile to find the best scholarships that match your uniqueness. In building a profile, you tell the tool all about yourself, like your interests, your activities, and groups. And in this case, you get potentially matched with over $3.5 million scholarships worth a collective $18 billion. Scholarship searches can help students create detailed profiles so that they can be matched with more scholarships. And the more detailed the profile, the more effectively the scholarship search can match a student's interests to the appropriate scholarships. You can also set up a personalized account alerts, like we mentioned on the previous slide, to notify you when new scholarship opportunity matching your profile becomes available. You can easily share scholarships also too with friends over social media. So if you see a scholarship that you like, but you don't think that it fits you, but it fits a really good friend of yours or so, you do have the ability with some scholarship search engines to share that over social media. So we've kind of told you a little bit about where scholarships are and some of the places that you can find them, and also to the importance of scholarship search engines. But now that you've found a scholarship, what is that you have to do in order to put yourself in the position to win a scholarship? And a lot is going to ride potentially on the scholarship essay that they ask for you to do. So let's go ahead and dive into this a little bit. Be prepared with scholarships to have some sort of a writing assignment, and some of them will have, an easy writing assignment, for lack of a better term, but some of them also may ask you to do a little bit more in-depth writing assignment. And if that's the case, make sure that, when you're doing this writing assignment, don't just recount something, reflect. Anybody can write about how excited they are about their field of study or how rewarding the college experience is. But when recalling these events, you need to give more than a play-by-play or an itinerary. Describe what you learned from your experiences and how it changed you. Scholarship review committees have their own criteria that they're looking for, and they'll tell you what that is within the description of the scholarship. When you write your essay, be detailed, but don't be long-winded. Be efficient with your writing without leaving out points the committee would probably want to see from you. And if you don't have a specific skill or an experience or an ability, don't lie on a scholarship application, but reflect on other skills or abilities that may fit what they're looking for, or possibly demonstrate to them your desire to learn and master these abilities and why their scholarship will help you achieve your outcome. Boy, being funny is tough. A student that can make an admissions officer or review committee laugh, that never gets lost in a shuffle. But you might want to beware, because what you think of as funny and what an adult working in a college setting think is funny are probably different. So we always caution against one-liners, limericks, or anything that's potentially off color. Make sure that you're leaving yourself plenty of time to brainstorm your ideas. Create an outline. Make sure that you also edit your entry as if you would for any essay writing assignment in your English class or any potential class that you're taking. Think before you write. Brainstorm to generate some good ideas, and then create an outline to help get you going. If you belong to an organization or maybe a professional organization, there might be possibly ways to submit applications and utilize or reflect on experience gained while being a member. Not only is this a source of potential scholarships, but they may have unique ways to demonstrate ability based on your experience within the membership. So make sure that you inquire with them. Also, too, each scholarship provider is looking for students who meet certain criteria. Consider writing about an experience or interest that highlights your strong ties to an organization's mission. Genuine passion and enthusiasm for your topic will show through in your essay writing. So again, try and be yourself in writing this essay, but yet, again, steer clear of some of the things that might hinder your application, like funny limericks or one-liners or some sort of humorous point that you don't really feel everybody will get. Also, too, make sure that you follow all of the necessary steps and review them before submitting your scholarship essay. And so trust me, some of the brightest students have missed out on the chance to earn a scholarship or win scholarship dollars all because they neglected to follow the instructions. You certainly don't want to fall into that category. And remember too, that scholarship committees would rather see how you overcame hardships and succeeded despite your obstacles in your path, or what you learned from the times that you failed. That is really important and very integral, again, with many scholarship entities. Also too, share something about who you are. This is a chance for you to elaborate on elsewhere on your the scholarship application would not allow for you to have the opportunity to do so. So, telling your story makes an essay genuine and ultimately more memorable to the scholarship committee. Enthusiasm for your topic will show through in your essay writing as well. If you're applying for a degree or a discipline-specific scholarship, clearly demonstrate why you feel passionate about the career you're going into and why this is a right fit. You may also want to possibly talk about how you experience or overcame physical, mental, or monetary hardships, or what you learned from the times that you failed. Talking about the review, asking teachers, counselors, family members, or other trustworthy friends for feedback on your essay will result in a better final product. And the reason for that is that scholarship committees do notice grammar mistakes. Even tiny errors can distract a reader from the overall message. Before you submit your application, make sure that you take the time to proofread your essay from beginning to end. If possible, have one of those close friends or relatives read your application with a fresh set of eyes and the ability to see mistakes that you might glance over. And also too, lastly, when you're tired, take a break. Don't throw in the towel, but go ahead and take a break. Fresh eyes can only enhance your application. So here is a good salient point of a good scholarship essay: that it's original and honest, that it states clearly why you deserve to win the scholarship, it avoids unnecessary information, and is inspirational and positive in tone, so essentially uplifting. I use the example that if you're writing about a bad employment experience and maybe you are in customer service and customers are yelling at you all the time, don't say in the application, or you may not want to consider putting in the application, that customers are yelling at you all the time and you hate it, and that's why I want to get into a different degree field so I don't have to deal with people. You may want to think about saying something along the lines of, I was working in customer service and I found that many customers were frustrated. But what I learned from it is that I want to be in a place where I can find solutions for these customers in a different degree field or a different program field. And I would like to learn ways that I can assist them better. So you're up talking, but you're still addressing the fact that you were in customer service and that customers were upset. So you can still speak about it, but you can see that the second way was much more inspirational and positive in tone. So let's talk a little bit about the summary of tips and such when you apply for scholarships. Okay. Make sure that you leave yourself plenty of time to brainstorm your ideas, create that outline, and edit your entry as if you would for any essay writing assignment or English class. Make sure also too that you follow all of the necessary steps and review them before submitting your scholarship essay. Also too, scholarship committees would rather see how you overcame hardships and succeeded despite the obstacles in your path, or what you learned from the times that you failed. Each scholarship provider is looking for students who meet the certain criteria, so consider writing about an experience or interest that highlights your strong ties to the organization's mission. Also too, get others to speak on your behalf. Take time to contemplate who would be the best or the proudest of you achieving your academic goals, and ask them for a recommendation if the scholarship application is asking for letters of recommendation. And also too, you may want to consider, when you're thinking about who the best or proudest of you achieving your academic goals are, sometimes you may want to think outside of your parents. Sometimes having a community member or a little bit farther distant relative or somebody like that, an employer, sometimes has more weight in their letter of recommendation with scholarship entities than maybe a potential parent would be. I think all parents, or many parents will, be, some proud of their students. And from that standpoint, scholarship review committees think that sometimes parents will have to say that. But yet if it's coming from an employer or a community member or something like that, that tends to sometimes carry more weight with scholarship entities. So it's something to consider. Make sure that you share something about who you are. This is your time to reflect outwardly who you are. And it's okay to be, a little proud of some of your achievements. Now is the time to do that. And make sure that you talk about these achievements fairly early in your essay. You don't want to be gaudy, but you do definitely want to represent some of the achievements and accolades that you've achieved. And lastly, proof, proof, proof. Make sure that before you submit your application, make sure you take the time to proofread your essay from beginning to end. And again, ask for assistance with a fresh set of eyes to help read your draft. So let's talk a little bit about what happens when you do win a scholarship. Once you win the scholarship, here are some things for you to understand. One, how will you get the scholarship money? And it kind of depends on the scholarship. The money might be sent directly to your college, where it will be applied to any tuition, fees, or any other billable charges or amounts that you owe. Sometimes it can be sent directly to you in the form of a check. The scholarship provider should tell you what to expect when it informs you that you've been awarded or that you've won the scholarship. If they haven't or they don't make you aware of this, make sure that you ask. It is completely okay for you to ask how you would be receiving the money if you actually have been notified indeed that you did win the scholarship. Also, too, you may want to inquire how the scholarship will affect your other aid. All of your student aid that you have already received in college, and when you add that together with the new scholarship that you've won, cannot be more than your cost of attendance. And the cost of attendance is a number that the college or university's financial aid office determines when building your financial aid package. You will need to let your school know that you've been awarded a scholarship so that the financial aid office can work that amount within your cost of attendance. And make sure that you ask the schools that you're interested in. Let's say that you're a junior or senior and that you're applying for college. You're not actually in college right now, but you're applying. Make sure that you ask the schools that you're interested in attending how they will adjust your financial aid if you won a scholarship. Some colleges reduce student loans or other types of aid first, and that's what you would want to inquire. If they can't go over the cost of attendance and I won a scholarship, would my loans decrease going down? Would I have some sort of non-gift aid be affected? And hopefully that's the case. More and more colleges and universities are doing it, whether it's just the right thing to do or whether it's legislatively correct in order to do that. So, but it's always good to ask exactly how they will do it. If your scholarship is renewable, make sure that you understand the requirements. Do you have to adhere to a certain grade point average in order for that scholarship to be re-awarded to you for your following year? Is there enrollment status that you have to achieve? Is the scholarship only eligible if you're a full-time student, but yet you want to drop down to half-time for a while because you've got a clerkship or an internship that you would like to do, and you don't think that you can handle the curriculum while you're doing it? You may potentially lose that scholarship if you drop from full-time to half-time if there's an enrollment requirement. Degree or major requirements. Sometimes you may win a scholarship in your first or second year of college where you think that you are going to pursue a degree or program of study. And then by the time you declare and move into your third or junior year, you may change your major. Make sure that your scholarship did not have a major or a degree requirement on it. And if so, you may have to figure out how you're going to navigate around that. You can call the scholarship entity and sometimes see if they would allow for your new degree path or your new major to qualify for this. Or it may determine, what you decide to pursue afterward, whether you stay in that degree major that you initially thought of in your first or second year, because you've got a scholarship that will help pay for it. So those are decisions that you'll have to ask yourself. Also too, make sure that if you do have a renewable scholarship, do you have to reapply or is it automatic? Not necessarily reapply with a full application on the scholarship, but maybe there are other things that you have to submit. Or maybe there's a portion of the initial application that you need to fill out each and every year that the scholarship is eligible. So again, you'll want to make sure that you review that. And also too, it's very important, and it's usually lost on quite a few scholarship winners. Make sure that you formally thank everyone that helped you achieve this accomplishment. Make sure that you thank everyone who helped review your application, and thank those that helped supply you information. And obviously, very importantly, formally thank the Scholarship Review Committee and the donor for their work and ability to supply the scholarship and trust in you as the recipient that their investment with their scholarship is going to be a good one. Please don't forget doing that, because especially if that scholarship is renewable. There have been some scholarship providers that did not receive a thank you note, or the donor did not receive a thank you note, and therefore the renewal of that scholarship did not happen. Because if you looked in the fine print of the scholarship, and again, you've read the entire scholarship application, so you should understand this, that it stated that a formal thank you is requested and required in order to send to the donor. But even if it's not required and not requested by the scholarship entity, it's always a good practice to do it. And it's always a good practice to thank those that got you to the place that you are. So make sure that that's a high priority once you've won a scholarship. So as a wrap up, remember to meet the deadlines on your scholarship. And whether you are applying through a community organization or a religious affiliation, or you're applying through an employer, wherever you find scholarships. And again, remember, colleges and universities, as well as private organizations, whether they are using a scholarship search service or not, they're all going to potentially have deadlines, and those deadlines can vary. Not only too, but you can have scholarships that are open multiple times a year, and they may be only open for 2 months at a time or 4 months at a time. So think about that too as well. So scholarship deadlines can really play into making sure that you qualify for a scholarship and that you get it submitted at the correct time. Also, something to think about too, because so many of these are online, if you miss the deadline and you try and submit it late, you might not have the opportunity to do so. Also too, make sure that you list all of your important accomplishments first. And we talked about this a couple of slides ago. It's now is a time to allow for your accomplishments and some of your achievements to stand out. And again, you don't want to be gaudy about it, so you don't want to be flashy or flamboyant, but you definitely want to make sure that your accomplishments are listed from a proud standpoint, and so that the Scholarship Review Committee knows what you've achieved, especially if it happens to be exactly into the requirements of the scholarship. List them up front, as close to either in the application or in your essay as upfront as you can be first. Sometimes listing them down throughout the scholarship essay, sometimes it might be lost on the committee. So make sure that it's worked up and in the beginning of your essay fairly close. And with that, again, showcase your honors and awards. Sometimes scholarships may have you list them outside of the essay, but if they don't, make sure that within your essay you do write it in that you have certain honors or awards if it happens to apply. And again, you don't have to be gaudy or flamboyant about it, but you can have it mentioned in your essay. And like I said, some scholarships do have you just simply list it as one of the boxes that you fill out on the application. Also, too, don't rule out smaller scholarships, okay? Everybody loves going for the scholarships that are $10,000 and more. And with that, you probably have an inordinate amount of people that are applying for those types of scholarships. But if you do rule out smaller scholarships, then you're obviously not going to win any, whether it be for $500, $1,000, or $2,000. Some of those scholarships do not go applied for, or they don't have near as many people applying for them. So sometimes your chances are better. And if you can win 1, 2, or 3, or maybe even 4 of those scholarships, that sometimes can work out better for you than applying for one $10,000 scholarship and not receiving it, because either A, you didn't meet all of the requirements, or you weren't chosen, or B, there were just so many applicants that you didn't necessarily stand out. So make sure that you don't rule out smaller scholarships, because adding up scholarships can benefit you. And lastly, too, start applying early. If you find a scholarship and the application deadline is a month from now, make sure that you start building your outline and how you're going to approach this earlier rather than later. Make sure that you read through the application process completely, so nothing is a surprise to you, and that you can get everything organized and ready to go when you need to, as well as if there is a request for a letter of recommendation, that you get a hold of the person that you would like to have write that letter of recommendation for you, and give them a week or even possibly 2 weeks to write that letter of recommendation for you. So again, make sure that you start applying early, and that you know everything that needs to be involved with it, so that you can plan and be timely about it. For more information, we've talked about scholarships and such, but there's a lot of great college planning and financial resources available out at Provident Credit Union's website. You can find that within their Enrich portion, and that's at providentcu.enrich.org. And I know that they would certainly also too like to work with you if you do have additional questions about today's topic as well. And so with that, Lena, I'd like to go ahead and open it up to questions.
Great. Thank you, Jeff. I will go ahead and go over the questions we've received. All right, it looks like we don't have any more questions. Well, that concludes our webinar today. Thank you all for attending, and I hope the session was helpful to you. As a reminder, we will be sending you a follow-up email with today's presentation. Have a great day, everyone. Thank you.